Welcome to another episode of Lifestyle After 5. I am your host, Ali, and we're back with another session of our Futurism series with the man, Rich B.
Woohoo, woohoo. Here I am. Here I am.
Welcome back, Rich. So, I'm pretty sure if you've been following our Futurism episode series, Rich has dropped a lot of knowledge on us. And what's been real big in the media lately is Elon Musk has dropped his robots, these personalized robots that he's got coming in the future. We already got smart cars that can drive themselves. AI is taking over the manufacturing industry with the Industry 4.0. AI is everywhere, but who's controlling it? Who's deciding if it's ethical or not? So today, Rich is going to break it all down as we talk about. He's going to give you a synopsis because it's very broad. So Rich is going to drop some of his knowledge on us about ethics in technology. Welcome, Rich. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I am, all finished. Having my conversation with my robots. We kind of have addressed all these things, and so I feel like I'm ready. I'm ready to talk ethics. Because it's basically out. Where we're kind of going with this is it's our responsibility. Kind
You
of
know,
overall on kind of how we're defining what's good and what's bad.
I'm kind of excited and nervous at the same time about the AI robots.
Which part excites you and what part scares you?
Well, I like the fact that I'm going to have somebody that can do all my house chores.
Woohoo!
Basically, and bring in and I got Optimus is what they referring to the robot as. Optimus can cook dinner for me, barbecue. He can clean my house, wash clothes, wash the car. So it take a lot off my plate. All I got to do is exist. Now
You
on
can
the
do that
scary,
well, right? You've been doing that for a while now, right?
yeah, but I still got to do something. I got to get my hands dirty. Everything that I don't want to do, Optimus can do. He can wash the dishes. Oh, I don't know if he can pick up the phone. Maybe he can run errands in the future. Maybe he can get in a Tesla parallel with a Tesla car. Maybe he can go buy groceries and run errands for me. I don't know. That's what I'm
Well,
hoping for.
yeah. Well, right now we're all leaning toward those AI agents, right? Those,
Hmm.
that they should be managing a lot of that kind of logistics part, where your AI robot will just end up picking that stuff up from the curb, bringing it inside, putting it away, kind of things like that. But yeah, there'll be a bunch of those little AI agents kind of floating, around, the ether, of your the technology of your house.
But now there's the scary part, and then there's the dark side. And I know we don't like to leave on a negative, but I can't help but it crossed my mind. I don't want to go to sleep at night and wake up and Optimus is standing over me. That might get Optimus a few shots from my Glock. That part scares me. If somebody hack into Optimus and Optimus is sitting there waiting on me to go to sleep.
The creep factor.
That's the creep factor. That's
Yeah.
that's the bad side that scares me with Optimus.
Well, they're all somewhat, kind of, manageable, but you know, um, it's still, kind of, we're not really on the ethics part, with that, when it comes to,
Hmm.
robot, like where ethics kind of falls into the scenario you just built was, not that there could be a creepy part, or again, there can be, you know, what are we doing? Like, basically, is what are we doing with this, like, power, with this information, right?
Hmm.
So, like, the kind of like the principles behind like technical ethics is like to govern, like, in the risk mitigation and individual rights, right? These are kind of what gets looked at and reflected on. And so, a lot of it's kind of basic, right? To understand, like, in some parts, the moral issues of developing this. So in your scenario, is it worthy of building a robot just for you to sit around and kind of get fat, or kind of something like that, right?
Hmm.
Or is it because it's been built so you can kind of go and do like the next level shit, right? So you don't have to be, you can kind of go out and be saving lives or kind of working on the next, cure of cancer or kind of, and while it's kind of doing your dishes, right?
Hmm.
So that's kind of like, so are we, so like some of the ethics or some of the moralities behind that is like, are we just kind of, why are we building this robot? Are we building it so we can make, people lazy, if you want to kind of leave it that way, or do we want to make it so that people can kind of go up one next level, right?
So for those
Another
people that whine that they don't have enough hours in a day and they don't have time to read and they don't have time to do things that's productive in life, if I hear what you're saying, Optimus is going to take away those excuses.
right. Well,
You have
that would
time
be
to be very productive. You have time to read that book now.
there. You
Optimus
go.
is going to help you with the chores. So therefore,
Right.
you should be making differences in your life, positive
Absolutely.
changes and differences. That
Well,
don't mean
that's the,
talk on the phone more.
right. Or that's the efficacy of why it was, to build it, why to make it, why to keep that information, kind of why get that all, kind of get that, you know, have that information stored, kind of, all that kind of thing. So, there's never like a good answer in the beginning. And, and a lot of that kind of comes from the fact that, you know, and why things like the robot, and the Elon Musk and a lot of these other things that are kind of coming up now is because we've never had to deal with it before, right? These are
No,
all
this is
new,
like the Jetsons, basically. This is the
right?
Jetsons, basically.
Right. So, right, so we didn't have any kind of issues like again the ethics, was it ethical to build a nuclear bomb? Like we never had to address that before because we never had to, we never had the power or the weapon or, to destroy ourselves, to destroy an entire like nation or, a bunch of people that, had give us something, kind of think about. So that's what technology is kind of adding to us now. Like, we've never had these kind of powers. We've never had these kind of energies to make such big differences in such small kind of places. So we now have to address them, so and address them kind of quickly.
Do you think with this political season going on, do you think this need to be a department of the government, a department of emerging technologies?
Well, it wouldn't be bad. I mean, there are places already that kind of goes on, right? So, right, most of like let's just say companies or organizations and things like that, because there's no book, right? There's never going to be a book, that's going to
Mm.
guide, everything, right? Again, we have the Bible or, again, the Quran or kind of things like that, that, obviously the human parts that are going to be addressed in there, right? Because we have individual rights and then we have like the risk of everything, right? So, and again, the government is somewhat responsible for both, Um, so governments usually establish guidelines, right? So compliance rules, and we have it everywhere, right? And how we manage our money,
Mhm.
how we manage our health, you know. So it wouldn't be against, against them, or again, they do kind of go in there that have almost kind of a global regulation on kind of certain things on those levels. But for like on if you want to say on a smaller level, a lot of the ethics, usually turn into like an ethic board, like, 5 or 6 people, who are like individual thinkers, wide range, right? Usually try to get, again, that's another reason why diversity is so important, right? And inclusion.
We need to start our own board. This brings a thought to my head. We need to regulate that. We need to do a board where we can ask questions. I mean, because things that need to be addressed is like, what is the AI decision making? What are the privacy concerns and surveillance? What is the bias in the algorithm? Who's regulating the emergency technology and who holds the power? We
Right.
need to get us a board together, Rich. Take it
We,
upon ourselves as our
clearly,
civic duty.
it should definitely
To
start
help
with
the
us.
people out there. Yeah.
because we're two well-rounded people, and I would say
Mhm,
kind of covered, but it can't be, can't be everything, can't be everyone. But yeah, so again, usually you have some kind, moral kind of leader and some technology leaders and stuff again. And again, because these questions haven't come up before, or kind of a lot
mhm,
of, so you just kind of have someone to oversee the ethical, aspects of AI and its use. And a lot of the newer GAI guys, like ChatGPT and Anthropic and stuff, they've spent a lot of time on that in their launches,
mhm.
on being kind of embedding a lot of that, again in there, based on some basic guidelines and kind of like the Microsoft T's and C's is actually run, in there to make sure that you know it's not going to hurt someone. It's not supposed to do this. It's not supposed to kind of do that. So there are like technical, um, let's say, ethical guidelines already built into some
Mhm.
AIs, right? But when we start to expand out, right? And again, when we're mentioning technology, technology of what, right? Like software, hardware, right?
Yeah,
Robots, this, right?
there's so much technology out there and everything right now.
Yeah. And so, ask, being able to ask those questions. And again, there are some already kind of like, set up questions to mitigate risk that's kind of already, used not only, again, with AI, but, kind of across the board and, with a lot of different things like development of medicines and things like that. The other thing that pops up a lot in technology ethics is on like kind of how fair it is to like everyone, right?
Mhm.
And again, there's that, do only rich people get to, you know, have these kind of conversations? Are they the only ones, because they have access to technology? Are we taking in consideration, people who don't have access to technology, or don't have access to technology today, but may in the future? Like so, there's again a lot of good thinking that has to kind, that needs to kind
Well,
of
I
go
always
on.
say AI can't help but have some biases because we as human have biases and we created it. So how can something be I say I always say there's always going to be some bias in AI because we as human have a lot of biases.
Right. Yeah, and kind of works in perfectly when it comes to the some of the early technologies, because although I think they may have been worked out, that we're all somewhat familiar with is facial recognition. And there was a lot of questions about how, you know, what's the ethical kind of points behind that, making those kind of decisions, right? And uh, is it controversial in general? And it's by definition, it was meant to you know take out a lot of biases, right? On it was meant to kind of minimize any kind of let's say racial biases, or kind of, or more importantly, kind of actually kind of quicker analyses and stuff like that. But like to take out like all of the kind of gut feelings about like say insecurity, right? um However, so security can kind of go do other things while facial recognition is kind of
Mhm.
working on. But just like you said, there are unconscious biases that have already been built, depending on how the AI was trained, right? Already built into it.
I was reading
That
something about that because yeah, with the facial recognition, although it may make a clear distinction between wanted criminals or whatever. But if you're only setting it up in people of color neighborhoods, well, then more often than enough, the algorithm is going to more likely choose people of color versus non-melanated people because this is
right,
where all you collecting all the data at, where you putting it at. You're not putting it fairly across, the different cities and neighborhoods.
right, yeah. So like to get a let's just say a fair or a well trained facial recognition system, You have to make sure that it's being trained across multiple populations, not multiple genders, but genders, races,
Mhm.
ethnicities, age groups, right? And then even poses. Um, and so, you know, so if it's trained well, right, or has a big database, right, and then so there it goes again. Like there are a lot of AI companies that are getting in trouble because they were using a lot of, like, let's say public or semi-public information on just pictures of people or kind of things like that, and then kind of for training, but um, to the point where now they were kind of paying people 3 cents for a picture, kind of things like that. Or again, using your imagination, let's kind of move outside that. When I was doing a lot of my work in the digital identity field, there's became, let's just say, popular, or kind of just to move away from the face in general for identifications and use palm, right? Because you could do just as much with your palm when it comes to identifying, who you are,
Mhm.
versus it being, a black palm, a white palm, a red palm, a brown palm. And so it kind of immediately removes any of those, like, internal biases that it may have,
Never thought
had.
about that. Yeah.
So we may want to kind of, although, facial recognition over the last couple of years has been amazing, when it comes to the 99.9%, you know you know accuracy rate. And again, there are, it's known that there's always going to be some kind of problems, but it does a pretty good job. Kind of, what it does is kind of measure, the distance between your eyes. It kind of measures your, the point to your chin, kind of overall shape of your, of your head, and then makes that a mathematical number. And then it just kind of looks for those mathematical numbers, right? So it's ultimately not looking for a white face, a black face. It's kind of looking for, all those other kind of features, and then it kind of
Yeah.
makes,
No.
makes those things. So, but again, garbage in, garbage out. If it just has those, that number, it just has all those things.
You had mentioned before in certain tests with self-driving cars when the car has to make a decision to run over someone, it has been most likely noted that it would hit a person of color.
Right. Earlier on, they kind of been able to work that out. Right. But in the early AIs and the early driving cars, when they needed to make a specific a decision, for some reason, it always ran over, the people of
Which
color. Right.
I don't understand why would the AI even have to make that decision? That why unless that was programmed in, why would color even come into mind? Where I would think it would just be logical, like, well, I'm here, this body is here, or this cat, dog, whatever is here. It's more logically for me to have to hit this body versus this body because I may have to hit a whole family if I go this way. Although it's sad, but I'm only taking out one person this way. I would
Right.
think that would be the logical steps of a computer, not, this person has got color on him or
Or
her.
like,
This
yeah,
person doesn't. And so this is what I'm saying, how AI picks up the human biases.
so much of it. Right.
Mhm.
Again, it's just because it's the way that it was programmed. And again, it wasn't that it was, specifically programmed, for that, but it just kind of, we don't know what AI picks up a lot. If you
Mhm.
really kind of ask down the line, even now, when you ask a lot of the chat GTPs, and programmers, and and designers, there's a lot that they say that we don't know why it made that decision. It just kind of had gone in and kind of figured it out, but again, it kind of took whatever information, and
Well,
so that's the danger, right? That there's, like, again, some parts of the, the ethical aspects of how we kind of using technology.
well,
We can learn how to fix it, but
well,
those things kind of come up front, while we're kind of
but
driving the
it
car
it
while.
it really highlights something because it's really smart because we're programmed the same way now
Right.
nowadays. I mean, we don't know why we don't like a particular group or a party of people. Usually now we're programmed by media. The media says something and we start to see something negative, a negative point of view about some group or culture or person or whatever. And before you know it, we demonize this person without ever personally knowing them, or we don't even have to hear anything that that person says. But based off media and images and everything that's being portrayed, we will seriously hate a person that we've never met, never heard anything negative, and we don't know why. So,
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. The biases that we've all been programmed since birth for a lot of us,
mhm,
in those directions. So yeah, and and again, we're not AIs, and but we know, but there are intelligence, that kind of fall in there. So yes, if you're constantly exposed, you're kind of like you don't know, and again, you won't even know the difference, right? You don't even know if you're wrong, if everyone is doing like these things or using certain words or or kind of something like that or can't. Like I know one of the I think it was one of the early Google systems, AI systems, when you had asked it to generate pictures of the founding fathers,
mhm,
um, but do it like as that they're Asian, and
mhm,
it couldn't do it. It just every time it generated the founding fathers or pictures of found, it was always this kind of tall, white, muscular kind of guy. Even if you pointed the direction to it, and say, make them Asian, it couldn't find the way. It didn't have the way. Clearly it exists in there, right? But it was saying just like in its deepest of programs, could not come up, kind of stuff like with that.
but even as a human, can you do that? I
Oh,
mean,
well, yeah.
I mean, no, but think about it. Yeah, you can turn around and change the image, but even as a human, when you say something like God or Jesus or Santa Claus or any type of savior, immediately what pops into your mind? It isn't someone black or Asian or whatever. I mean, you can kind
Oh,
of try
yeah.
to change it, but it takes thought. Like, oh, let me change this. But it's not the immediately image that's popped in your mind, even as a human.
Right. No, it's actually, I mean, yes. I mean, where it's kind of human to be like that, right? Again, because we never had to address it that way before, right? Like it was just kind of
I mean,
easy. And a big part of what I do as a futurist also is help people break, biases, these kind of, glass ceilings that we've all been kind of trained with, all this time, success and failure, again, singular ways of reaching problems. Again, thinking about again different ways to get to to different places. By use of different brain techniques. So you
no,
can be retrained, right?
oh,
So
absolutely, if you're willing.
yeah.
But what do you say? Some people don't think there's dangers. Some people embrace their biases, and that's just the way that they want to be. They feel they have to be biased, and there's no need to learn about other cultures. What do you have to say? Okay, could you speak a little bit to the dangers of being biased,
Well, yeah. I mean,
especially as a futurist?
I mean, definitely, the horror that I think that we're seeing, with the two Americas, during this whole political thing, has been like, incredible, and and I think exactly that type of biases that are kind of going on. So kind of like again the feedback that I've been hearing from different sectors, because again I'm a multidisciplinarian, so you know what it has shown, let's just say, is that there is that, I don't want to address the bias, or I don't know it. And a lot of it kind of, what stems from, and this is like, well, again, like, this won't be some huge,
Mhm.
surprise, is a lack of education, right? And so even a lot of the people who are holding on to these biases are actually kind of blaming education, right? They're saying, what is it with this? What is it that they're teaching people in college that, makes them think this way and not the way I think, right? And it's just because they're not exposed, they're not, again, open to new ideas, or even kind of have that idea. It's like this, you can't
Mhm.
help, just like saying, like, you know, the ignorance, kind of it. But it's like, when it becomes normalized, right? Like that's kind of how they are. That's how they've been. Or as I kind of have, have been with my research is, and again, this isn't me too. There's a lot of philosophy, Nietzsche and all that. Is that
Mhm.
you will do as much, like whatever you can, to keep your reality in place, right?
Mm.
Once you start kind of breaking out, like when your biases start to melt in front of you, right? Or once you start being like shown a mirror on kind of how bad, or kind of something like that, you'll immediately kind of get into a threat area, unfortunately, again, that's kind of how
Mhm.
people have been taught, or, this, it used to be, okay, we could both talk, we could both say our opinion, and then we can kind of go out and have a drink, or smoke a joint, and kind of go about our business. Now it's you're wrong and you're dead wrong, and and you're dead to me. Right? You can't. Again, there's that no new ideas, that that kind of closed kind of mentality that apparently has worked for certain institutions and sectors and kind of things like that. And mm, again, that you would normally see education, or exposure, again, to different people, different ideas, even if you want to say, how much travel has changes people, right? When you kind of go and you
Travel
go to
definitely would
different places,
change it.
right? Like, so if you just have like, people who've been stuck in this one corner of their world, and see the media, and parents and grandparents, and friends, and again, and we don't, like, and this is something I've been mentioning for a long time, we don't have like kind of really good kind of like I kind of we don't really have kind of good tribes anymore. Like we've
Oh, no.
removed ourselves from tribes so much that, and our tribes used to give us, again, understanding and meaning, and all that, so we would know, and so now, like, the only, like, one of the things that the political parties have been giving us is kind of a sense of a tribe. Like, we have, the red people, the red color versus the blue color, right? We kind of believe on, like, in general, what this group kind of believes, and we kind of believe, so that's been a kind of a tribe for us, kind of for a while. But again, it's not meant to be so, again, so black and white, if you want to leave it, so red, and so red and blue. And so I think, if again, with we had, you know better exposure to, again, to more people, or more ideas, or, again, or kind of openness, we wouldn't see, I think, again, some of this stuff. And again, and a lot of it is, like, again, is just critical thinking. Like, that was one of the main things that has kind of come up. And critical thinking, and is very similar to, like, the evaluations of, like, risk mitigation, right? It's the who, what, where, when, and why. Very simple kind of questions, like, who is this affecting? Where is this affecting people? Why is this affecting people? Right. So when you're kind of talking about, like, technologies, and, and ethics, it's like, who are we building this for? Why are we building this? Is it, where, is it going to be for everybody? How are we collecting this information? How can somebody use this, kind of, in some way, like, again, fakes, or fake news, or fake videos, or how could someone undermine this in the social levels? Like, a lot of reasons that we've had issues with social media is because we've never had a system really that, real time basis, been able to affect such large people, at one time, right? We've been
Hmm.
able, we had
We've had
books,
whole wars
newspapers, TV,
started with social media.
right? But now when we had it like social media and an influencer, and what we have learned from, social media and influencer is that the influencer of 5 people is just as strong, right, as the influencer of 50,000 people, right? They're the same level. They carry the same amount of weight, that influencer. It's just maybe 5 people, but it's not like it's a diluted 5 people. He has the same, he or she has the same power, kind of on that way. And then, is it meant
Well,
to be good?
and going with that theory with the 5 people, is it because that 5 people could go out there and persuade another 5 people and it keep going?
Well, just that it has such a like a higher dynamic in like impact on you, right?
Mhm.
So again, what you do with that, as in you kind of going down the chain or kind of something like that, yeah, maybe, again, might be just within your family or your kids or kind of something like that. But it's not like, you know, that one person, that one influencer has such a strong, again, it's such a strong kind of connection. Where before you would have, like, say, the president of the United States would be such a big influencer.
Mhm.
He would influence a large group of people and this and that, right? And then, your next door neighbor could say the same thing, whatever, but he really wouldn't have that much of an effect, right? But now with social media, that um, person can affect the those 5 people as much as the president would affect someone. See what I mean?
Okay. Mhm.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, there's, like, big, that kind of big and small. It wasn't like it's a small voice someplace in the background. It's now become a very big voice. Now, again, it's important. Will they affect their, how they spend their money? Again, how they view things, and all of that. So I'm just saying that that's kind of like, again, the ethics of how we're now dealing with social media, that we didn't have to deal with it before, right? Um, you know, um, the other part, and again, I think historically, and kind of what we see this is, like, we usually do things and then we kind of bump heads into something, and then we address it and fix it, and then, we move on, right? So, like, a lot of the issues lately have been, like, in the ethics of using AI for, like, entertainment, more importantly for music, right? So is it, ethical for having these big, language music, AI systems coming up with songs and themes and stuff that's something like, an artist would put together, right? It kind of has that same look and
Yeah.
feel, same
That's it. Who
sound,
owns it? Yeah, who owns it?
right? Like, who
Who
owns
gets
that?
the
Like,
writer credit?
right? So, we never had to do that before. We never had a system, you know, that had these type of technologies that did these things, right? So, we now have to kind of bring in the ethics aspect of it, the fairness aspect of it. And, we'll find a way. Universal Music had just kind of come up with something. They had kind of worked within this group, and now kind of on in a wider range, that, they have now, had found a way to still get information and data and stuff like that from a larger group, but be able to kind of manage the overall kind of sound and this, or kind of, give credit or not give credit where it's due. So they kind of put energy into it, put another layer of technology into it to, to manage it. So I think there'll be just like there'll be a bunch of these kind of, as we go like down the line, you know the machine kind of ethics, and the, like, when it comes to the algorithm, like, we have to really kind of watch that, and we don't really have anything safety, kind of guiding us, either, locally or at country or at the company level itself. Like, I'm not going to say anything like what YouTube is doing is bad if you want to
Mhm.
use something like that, but, you know you're telling YouTube what you want to see, by what you're watching and how long you're watching it, and by liking it or not liking it, right? And so
Mhm.
it's just going to keep giving you that information again, another layer of it, right? Another kind of thing like that. So now all you're watching is your one point of view over and over again, right? So, and now you're teaching other systems, like other learning systems, and your personal, like, again, and your own personal point of view is starting to get, kind of diluted with with what that what you want to see, right? Not what's kind of really out there, right? So like there is no kind of bias, there's no system that's kind of protecting us from that. And we're starting to see some of those things when, again, what you're seeing from TikTok and how it's kind of affecting children, right? Is it reinforcing, kind of anything good, or is it, of the biases, or is it locking some out?
I argue though, is it fair to blame social media as parents?
I mean, that's another toughie, right? Like,
It is. It's very tough. I
like
struggle.
if I got into a car accident, like, am I going to blame the car that I was driving, or am I going to blame, some other random thing that, that's,
Mhm.
so, I guess because we're, it's the vehicle, right? So I guess you're going to have to try, as in, who built it and kind of what's behind it and stuff like
Yeah,
that,
if
I
we
don't think so, because is it you as a parent's role to make sure that your kids are not sitting around watching on social media all day, right?
yeah, and you
So,
should be teaching them and going over it with them. You mentioned a tribe. I just want to invite anybody, if you're watching us this far and you're looking for a non-biased tribe and you want to know all about futurism, join our series. Be sure to like and subscribe. I see series over there. Siri want to get in it. Series ready to like and
people are
subscribe.
getting
Join us. Give
potent
us
for
a
it,
thumb
right?
up
Yeah.
and leave us a comment.
Be our tribe.
Yeah, be our tribe as we build our tribe. Also, if you're watching this on YouTube, you see the QR code above my head. You can scan it. You can also join our Discord, and we can continue these conversations as well as we post a lot of stuff from Rich's article. Uh, and Rich, give me your website too.
It is my full name, so it's www.richardbukowski.com, one word. It has I have a lot of great information there about futurism. I list all my signals of the future there. I have all my articles, all my videos. So it's a kind of a good, kind of wide range of different subjects, and easy, I think easy to understand.
We'll break them down for them. But yeah, this is a lot to consider. It used to be back in the early 2000s when people used to buy like uh firewall software. What's one of the, I can't think of, McAfee
Hmm.
was a big software program to protect your computer from hackers.
Norton.
It was some others. uh Norton was another big one, and it was all about protecting your data. Now I don't even think that matters much now, because they don't hack so much of your personal computers now. They hack the companies that holds all of your data.
Right.
Every other month, every other day, there's some type of data breach out there where your information and your personal information, social security number, date of birth, address, and all that has been gathered by hackers. And it is really scary. I mean, even the US government is being hacked at certain points in where your information. I'm not sure there's just anything we can do at this point to even protect ourselves as technology keeps advancing.
Well, other than having more advanced um, cybersecurity kind of working on our side, right? So we
But we
do have a
dependent
partner
upon
on that.
someone else. That's why
You know,
cybersecurity, I guess, is a big career field to get into as AI take over. There's some for people that's worried about their jobs are transitioning. Yeah, I can see cybersecurity not going away. You're going to need even
oh no,
more
yeah, there's tons of
networking.
opportunity. Yeah, um, and again with the the parts of ethics, there is at least it should be questioned, right? When you're kind of building these different types of technologies, that you know, what, as I mentioned before, what could happen, right, if we're collecting all this information, right? And again, I know what can possibly happen from white guy in Northeast who kind of pays attention here and like that, but there has to be other people kind of thinking about this, kind of working on it, and again, understanding how governments work and kind of things like that. So I think everyone kind of goes in with the expectation that it'll be used for good, right? Because that's how most people, I think most most governments, most companies are kind of doing things. I've been using the 23andMe system as a
Hmm.
kind as a something of a kind of a case study for something that I'm working on. Um, you know, um, they, if you're familiar with it, they have, they were
Hmm.
the one of the early good, kind of DNA tests, right? Um, you know, we're $1 billion company and then went to like a sub-dollar company, for like a bunch of different reasons. So now they have, data that they can kind of sell, right? And that kind of, and again, some part of it was okay to, to use or to sell, to pharmaceutical companies or to insurance companies or kind of something like that to get a little tricky. But then they got hacked, and they got hacked pretty bad. So now here's all of your information, from social security numbers to addresses, but also to your DNA code. So what
Oh,
does a
wow.
hacker do with kind of with that, kind of that information, right? And so was it a good idea to keep that in the first place? Was it, did we learn a lesson, or there'll be just more of these? So will we just again get smarter? Again, a lot of kind of tough questions,
It
um,
is.
consider, right? But I mean, again,
Maybe
there's a lot that it did that was good, right? Like again, if you wanted to know if you had, an upcoming, genetic disease, like you didn't know that before, you couldn't, you could have never known that before, right? It wasn't until these technologies kind of came up, right? So it- but now
it's
it's
definitely a
an
fine line.
right.
Maybe in the future, the AI will be smart enough where it can simultaneously create something new and protect itself at the same time, if that makes sense. Maybe
I
we
like that.
could get the AI program where it will come out with a new technology, but then think of all the ways that it can be hacked and be used against the humans to protect humans.
It, I would say I definitely see that day coming, but
Almost
again,
like when we talk about a digital twin, where it's a digital twin working and simultaneously with it, doing different things. Where it's like, okay, you're coming up with this technology, but the twin is on the other side of the opposite side saying, we got to protect against this, we got to protect against this, and
yeah,
this, based off the history.
or make sure it could only get to these three areas and stuff. One of the technologies that I mentioned in my digital identity forecast is a term called homomorphic encryption, right? Which means that you could take information even in encrypted form and have a computer or the cloud or something kind of go in and work it out, do its computations, but it would only return it back, in its form to the right key, to the right, kind of person, the right password or whatever, right? So it
Oh,
was
it's
my
almost like
forecast.
blockchain.
Yeah. So it was my forecast to say, to saying that in the near future that we are the key, our bodies, you know, either our DNA or again our facial or handprint or kind of something like that. So that every place that because we can't have like 1,000 different passwords and different things like that for everywhere we go, right? If I
Yeah.
want to go and vote, right? If I want to go to the bank, if I want to go buy a candy bar, kind of anything like that, that's why the multimodal, identity seems to be leading right now, right? Can't be just one way.
I I
But
don't know if I want the my palm being scanned. I guess we're getting into more like the mark of the beast there.
Just your
Well,
palm?
basically, I'm the
No,
password. I don't know if I'm ready for that yet.
no. There's a clear mark of the beast. You know what it is, right?
I really don't.
Well, again, I keep up with a wide range of subjects, right? So, including the esoteric and stuff, and the one
Mhm.
that kind of leads a lot is the barcode, right?
Well, yeah.
Uh, so like by definition, the one of the reasons that the mark of the beast, you wouldn't be out, allowed to do commerce without it, right?
Mhm.
And so try to buy something right now without a QR code or without a code,
Never thought about it like that. You are correct.
right? So, when we start having our own little, kind of codes on our like foreheads and on our palms and stuff. So I don't like. So
Yep,
when I start seeing people use like things like that, get tattoos like that, it gets me a little worried
exactly.
and stuff.
I guess
But
they already programmed this new generation with the tattoos on the head and getting people used to wearing tattoos on their faces and everything. They warming you up, so it'll be no big deal when you got a code on the middle in the middle of your forehead.
yeah. So but I just think like again, your palm, your face, your kind of all other things. I don't think that you know by itself would be considered the mark of the beast, but that could be a whole nother show kind of thing.
Oh yeah, that one would create a lot of controversy.
There's also like again the ethics part kind of goes back to I think one of our earlier shows about that we were talking about, in the I think the law and litigation, right? When you have
Uh-huh.
computers making decisions about, if you just broke the law, right? Like if you, had, again, took a red light, took a, or any of the other, where we're starting to see some other, the technologies kind of going, especially like in China, like, you're, you're a political dissident, you're this, you're that, right? And then all of that information starts getting collected, right? And then could a military group or another government surveillance use that information for good or bad, right? Who gets access to it? I'm saying like those are those questions like that: who, what, where, right?
I've heard that China has this social score thing. I don't know if that's true or not.
It is. Yeah.
Wow.
It affects you. It affects you on again on how and what kind of an apartment you could eventually get, right? What kind of job,
And we thought
all of those
credit
things.
scores was bad, and a social score, I just couldn't imagine that.
Isn't that
That's
different?
very Is it that different? Yeah, I mean, I think it's a lot different. Just think, I don't like somebody, so I disagree with you. We get into it, so my social score suffers. Or I can see that, oh, if you're not with a certain political party, and then your social score could hurt or suffer. And now with this election, they are going. Uh, Now I'm hearing advertisement where now it is public knowledge whether you voted or not. Who you vote for is private, but whether or not you voted is public. Why do people need to know if someone voted or not? They have the right to vote or not to vote. The public
Hmm.
doesn't need to know what their voting score is. Yeah, that's what we're getting now. A vote, you actually being assigned a voting score. So that could affect your social score. So I'm
The
not in agreement with that.
No, I mean definitely that one definitely goes outside what we normally would have kind of dealt with. The a bad credit score doesn't allow you to again get money, allow you to again borrow money, get
But
access
you
to
can
money.
improve it after 7 years, though. It will reset.
Well, again
And as you
that's
pay
a
things off, you can challenge and everything. You can work on your credit score.
but that's a term,
But
right?
it's
But that's a term that it has
Mhm.
kind of built in. We could do the same thing with the voting thing too, right? Like we kind of come up with some number that says after a while when I'm kind of drawn, like really kind of, you know, pulling straws here, but I'd be interesting to kind of figure out how other people can kind of use that, against you, or
Well, I
um,
think it's more to beat you down, if because there's certain segment that don't vote, so therefore they will target phone calls and ridicule you, and then you become the blame of why a particular person didn't win the election. Had you voted, they would have won. You're to blame of everything that's going bad. Kind of like during the time period when they were giving out some vaccinations, and one group was blaming the other group for the spread of it. Meanwhile, I mean, it's a worldwide thing, but because a certain segment of group here didn't get it, they were blamed for the whole worldwide spread
I think
of a certain thing.
I'm not sure, but I think actually your registered political affiliation is public information.
I think it's you're registered, who you are registered with, but uh, who you voted for and assigned a score is new to me. Whether you
No,
voted or not is new to me.
well, right. If you voted or not,
So now they're
I still,
keeping track, and they're assigning
yeah,
scores of are you which elections you vote in. They're keeping track of that and putting that out as a public knowledge. So I could go and say, I don't know who Rich voted for, but Rich didn't vote in the primaries, or Rich usually votes in the state and local elections, but he's not voting in the presidential election. So he has I don't know, out of 10, Rich is a 3 for the presidential election. So Rich is not supporting. He's not doing his due diligence.
cut them out.
Yeah, cut him off. Don't listen
Now
to
cut
nothing
them
he
off.
has to say.
Yeah, no internet for him. Uh, yes, again, tricky, and again, who's watching the watchers, right?
Exactly.
Um, yeah, I always feel that a lot of my forecasts, when you take them out 5 years, 10 years, they usually end up being like, does your like your local government, does your or does government, like, even have like the capacity to understand stuff like this, like who eventually going to be passing laws, so
Mhm.
is it best for you to take your, like, so what do you do to change the future is, you know pay attention to, or again, get people who understand these types of things to be part of your political system, for them
I
to
just
even
you have to look at the ethics in that and how they use that information. Because pretty soon, I think voting should be moving towards the blockchain. I think is the most fairest way and easiest way to do it. Where we're on a blockchain of voting.
yeah,
We,
I think so. I mean, it could be done. I don't know, have you ever had like how many bank errors have you ever had in your life?
bank errors.
Like, yeah, like a mistake that you either saw, like, again, either at the machine, that, or again on a statement,
I don't recall too many. I mean, I've had
right?
some fraud, but I haven't really had a lot of
Right,
bank
yeah,
errors.
right.
Yeah.
So and like that's the part to me. Why don't we just do it at the bank? I mean, that system's pretty robust, right? Like, and again, you have your card, you can punch in your keyword, or again, something that kind of makes it,
Yeah. Because this
you
day
know,
and age, you should be able to vote from your smartphone or from your computer with the technology that we have.
it's very, yes, very similar. The only thing about what they had found with these systems, and actually there's a great the like Jimmy Carter has a like the Jimmy Carter Institute has like this great voter confirmation kind of system that they use around the world. Unfortunately, they don't use it here. Like, I would say ironically, but maybe not ironically, because who, like, it does sound like that system gets a little weird. But
Mhm.
after you vote electronically, you should get a piece of paper that says Allie voted, this way. And then you put that into a box, and then the electronic and the paper gets verified between the two of them, and then it becomes true, right? So if it's not just electronic or not just paper, and they should have like the two. And but I'm saying like I've never seen a bank problem, bank statement, again, an
No, I mean,
error,
there are ways to do
so
it. There are definitely ways we can do it. Well, Rich, time is running out. We got about 4 minutes. Any last thing you like to clear up on ethics or tell us?
well, I mean, just that that it's everywhere and that it should be part for everyone. Like again, what the scary part of it is, when it's just if these boards or again these kind of countries or organizations that are making these decisions, are just you know the same people, kind of who kind of think the same way, either on purpose, again the way that their biases, their what they think is truth and what they, what I might think is propaganda and what they may not. So it's just like again that critical thinking, that kind of push on that for for everything, not just
Mhm.
for all the new things that are kind of coming aboard, and then whatever stuff that we're working on, that we're thinking about, again big and small. Again, there are no minor influencers, right? You influence people, even if it's five or if it's 10 or again, over it's a million, like you know uh make sure, like again, it's kind of morally your responsibility, right, to be kind of a good person, right, to be kind of be good, to think about a lot of kind of different ways. And if kind of it all starts kind of with us. So that's the only thing I kind of want to say. Don't push it for somebody else to do.
Cool. As always, we always gonna keep it ethical here on Lifestyle After Five. Please join us on YouTube and Spotify at Lifestyle After Five, and you can also join our Facebook page at Lifestyle After Five. Go check out Rich's website, richardbrenkowski.com. You can see it right below me. Check out as he got interesting articles and everything and keeping you ready for the future. Until our next time, y'all be safe out there and let's make a better future for each and every one of us.
Every one of us.